Welcome to our October 28th capital project work session and our special call board meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone that's joining us live, and of course, we have a full board. Thank you for our staff that's here to help us with making this our first live work session. We appreciate that, and we appreciate our staff that's here to bring us information. I know you worked hard to prepare. Thank you for our security and guests. At this time, if we can stand for our invocation, followed by our pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we bow tonight asking for your mercy and your grace for all of those in our school family that are suffering from the loss of a loved one, those that are recovering from illnesses. Father, we thank you that your hand is ever close to help us, and we call on you for the needs that need to be met. Father, we lift up our families, knowing that all of our provisions come from you, and we look forward to those needs being met for any of our families that have needs that need to be met in our school families and in our personal families. Father, we stand on your word that promises us in Psalm 1 and 3 that when we stand on your word, Father, we as a school district and as individuals, we can be like a tree firmly planted by the streams of water that bring forth the fruit in its season. Our leaves shall not fade or wither, and everything that we do, individually and as a school district, can prosper and come to maturity. We thank you for your word. We thank you that we're allowed to participate in helping the children of Colleton County. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I've asked Trustee Nixon if he would remind us of our mission statement.
The Colleton County School District will prepare every student to graduate with a 21st century education to be globally competitive for their chosen college and/or career path.
Thank you. And our civility pledge, if you'll join with me in reciting.
I pledge to build a stronger and more effective school board by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of our school district.
Thank you. Board members, before you and emailed to us as well as posted for the public is our agenda for tonight. As you can see, we have a work session followed by a special meeting with two topics. At this time, I'll accept approval of agenda unless there's something that we need to adjust.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion about the agenda that's before you? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda that's provided for us tonight, please show your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. And now we turn our capital project work session over to our superintendent and her staff, and we appreciate the work that you've done and the presentation you're going to bring us tonight for information.
Thank you, Chair Strobel, and I'd like to say good afternoon to all of our board members and to everyone who is in attendance tonight. Our leadership team has worked very hard to present to you our capital improvement project update, and our agenda tonight will start with a presentation that will be given by Dr. Bagley on understanding local government debt millage and the 8% borrowing limit. So she will start with that presentation. Then our Director of Buildings and Grounds will come before you to give you some updates, status updates on projects that have already started, and some other important information that he needs to share. And then I will come before you to talk to you a little bit about a capacity study that we are asking for your consensus to move forward with. So we're going to start tonight with Dr. Bagley. If you would start with our presentation.
Before we begin, is there
Yes.
any update that we need or can provide our listening individuals on our high school?
So as of right now, from my understanding, the work is still continuing. They're still working on the water main break that happened through the city of Walterboro. They are working on it. I have not received confirmation that it's finished. However, the water director feels confident that it will be finished this afternoon. And at that time, I will update the board. In the message that I sent to parents, it did say that we expect school to operate tomorrow, and I will send a message stating that we will operate or we will not operate. So a message will be sent regardless. But at this time, I cannot say because I have not received confirmation. Yep, to be determined. Thank you.
I want to say, first of all, that when you look at 8% money, this is a very short version of what would normally, if we had a lot of time, we would be talking about. I am very much aware of your schedule for the rest of this evening and trying to get home after a busy day of work and other activities that you've got to do. So this is a short version of understanding the 8% money. And if we need to go deeper, we will when there's more time. But what is debt millage, first of all? And in South Carolina, there's a debt service millage is a portion of the local property tax rate dedicated to paying the principal and interest on bonds or other debt issued by a school district, and is separate from the millage used for the general operating expenses. So it's two different revenue sources. One is your operational millage, the other is your debt service millage. So how does the levying of debt millage work? School districts can issue general obligation bonds to fund school buildings, maintenance of school buildings, roads if you have to take a curve out, if you're trying to put a new school in, that sort of thing. So anything that is operational in the school buildings, the maintenance of it, technology, anything like that can be paid through these obligation bonds. The debt service millage is the tax that collects the revenue needed to pay for these bonds annually. And so when a local bond is issued, it's the county auditor is legally required to levy the necessary debt service tax. It's not anything that the school district does. This is the county auditor that levies this tax. And then on the tax bill, the property tax bill is outlined on your tax bill. It says debt service. And everybody pays that debt service tax. And that's, if it's a new school, you're paying for that. Or if it's maintenance, you're paying for that. Whatever those obligation bonds were issued for, it will appear on your tax receipt, and that's what you pay for. It's different from the operating millage because you do not pay taxes on your primary home. Now, you do pay taxes if you have a secondary home, your boat, your camper, if you have one, your cars, and that sort of thing. But the debt service goes to everyone. So that's one of the chief differences between the operating budget millage and the debt service millage. South Carolina has laws limiting how much a government body can borrow, and that's where the 8% comes in. You can only borrow 8% of your assessed value, of your assessed property value. And if you go over the 8% of the assessed property value, you have to get voter approval. So some school districts are able to build school after school after school because of their tax revenue that comes in, their high property values, and just because their growth. They can build a school and not do a referendum whatsoever. But when you're small, there's no way that you can unless you save for 10 years, can you build a school over your 8% money. Now, the next page here is an overview of bond issuance from 2022 to 25. And we could have gone back further, but we just started at 22 to show you each year what has been asked of, from 22 to 24, and how much the bond sale was. Like in 23, the fall bond was almost $2 million, and then the total for that whole year was $4 million, because you got it at different times. You don't always have to get your 8% money at one time. You could get it in the fall, you could get it in the spring. It's just whenever you need, you can ask for it. Most of the time, we get it all at one time, but sometimes, depending on the projects, you can get it at different times. This is just a history that you're aware of because you approved these. Looking at this year, we already have taken over $1 million for the high school roof, and then the projects, we have a total of $6 million, which leaves $5 million at this time, but as Mr. Simpson goes through his projects, we're going to come down to about $2.8 million. So, and that's for roofing, that's HV issues, painting, keying, all of those things that falls under the 8% money. When can you receive this money? I've already mentioned this. In the fall, usually September, or in the spring and May. So if you hear us speaking about we received X amount of money in the fall, but then we're talking about getting additional money in the May, that's still our money. That's still our 8% money. We just got it at different times. But you're not getting any more. You're not doing anything indifferent. The 8% is the 8%. There's no way to add to it. There's no way to take from it, because it's all 8% of the assessed property value that the assessor levies the tax on, and and actually they're the ones who dictates how much millage and what a mill is worth. So the Colleton County, on the last page, the summary, our debt millage is 54.5 mills. That's what is levied. And the value of a debt service mill is $237,694. The county assessor, based on the assessed value of the property, sets this debt-related tax rate. So again, the school district is not involved in any way. It's the county auditor, the county assessor, who makes these determinations, levies it, and then tells us how much a mill is worth. And at this time, it's $237,694. And that's how we get our 8% money. So as let's say we had a lot of money, and we had $50 million, and we built a new school. Our 8% money would be less until we paid off that $50 million school. And then once that $50 million school, you'd get more money. So depending on your debt at the time dictates how much is going to be available to you. So it's always the 8% of the assessed value, but if you owe debt, that reduces how much you can get. So we pay off the debt, and then when we pay off the debt through the millage and through the mills that's been allocated here, then we get to do more. And all of this is without raising taxes. So the 8% money is a lifeline. It's the only source that you have to do what Mr. Simpson's going to be talking to you about tonight. If we did not have this money, how would you do the roofs? How would you do the HV system, HVAC systems, the painting, the flooring, new doors? I mean, I can go on and on and on with all the issues that we have in trying to correct generators and things like that. This is the lifeline to repair issues that's in our schools. Otherwise, it's not going to come from the general fund. There's not enough money there. And so the 8% money is critical to our being able to function as a district. So this, again, is very brief, and I know you've heard it before. I'm sure that there's been other presentations about the 8% money, but it's pretty standard about, this is a law, it's in statute. It really came about, well, it's been there for a long time, but the avenues to use it and actually opening up for not only borrowing for debt, but for capital needs, really came into play after 388. Act 388 really brought it to bear. So anyway, it's a very quick review of 8%. If you wanted to go deeper, we certainly can. But again, it's what our millage, and then our rate and how it's set, and then how much money we get determines on that property rate and how much debt we already have. Do you have any questions about the 8% money? Just consider it a lifeline.
Thank you, Dr. Bagley. Now we're going to move to Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Before you, you have several documents from the administration. The first document that you see in your packet is a discussion about the softball indoor batting cage and restroom project. So the letter that I provided you is some documentation from our architect that we hired via the RFP, Mosley Architects. And it just reiterates the process of using OSF and how that we have to have a architect design the batting cage along with the restroom project. I know that has come up. So I just wanted to provide you some documentation of why we have to do that and what we have to do for OSF. And whenever I was in Charleston, I dealt hand in hand with OSF. They do oversee everything. They could, and once we go through it, whenever they review it, they could pass it off to a third party. That is determined by OSF. That would not be determined by us or the architect. So either way, we would have to go through the inspection process to receive the occupancy once those structures are designed and built. If you look on the next page of that document, I just outlined the funding aspect of that, just to bring that back up. I know that whenever we brought it up, we did approve the design piece of it. The board did back on, I believe it was 9/16 board meeting. So I just wanted to bring that piece back up about where the funding was coming from to fund that. And that was based off 2020 bond funds that were set aside for a indoor softball batting cage, 2023 bond funds, and then we would have to use some 2025 bond funds as well. And I have that all spelled out on that second page for you. So with the softball, is there any questions about the administration moving forward to engage Mosley in starting the design process for this?
Yes, sir. I have one question. The batting cage that we have at our high school now, which is the boys' batting cage, was it built under the OSF guidelines?
I was not here at that time, but in conversations, I do not believe it was. So therefore, that leaves us liable and vulnerable if they do come out and inspect that.
With that being said, I'd like to ask our attorney if it's going to be a Title IX issue for us if we build a batting cage for our girls softball team and we don't equally build a indoor cage for our boys team?
Yes, correct. There is one, and we would design it to meet what is over there for the baseball team as well.
But the one that was there currently is a liability for us now that we know it wasn't properly built, and it was, hey, Allison, it's Craig. So my question is this,
Okay, I can't hear. I'm gonna have to do something, either turn my volume off on the computer or I can't hear for both. So let me see what I can do with my computer.
okay,
Okay,
you ready?
yes.
All right, my question was this. Our indoor batting cage for our boys' baseball team was not built under the OSF guidelines. So it is a liability for us now. It also was not built to the same standard that this new batting cage that we're looking to build for our girls softball team. So with that being said, if we don't do equally for both teams, do we stand to have Title IX issues in the future?
Well, without knowing more, not necessarily would be the answer, because if you already have a batting cage that's there, I mean, unless OSEF is telling you to take it down, it sounds like you have an adequate facility. So OSEF approving it during the building process, and if you have to upgrade, they might make you make changes. But it sounds like you have a batting cage for boys that is what they like to use and have been using for years. If you build the girls one, just because it's a different standard doesn't mean it's necessarily better. Now, if you want to make upgrades to the boys, you will have to comply with OSEF. I don't know why this one wasn't built to OSEF standards years ago, and it could be that it's that old before they had standards for batting cages. That's a very real possibility, and if so, it's grandfathered.
Oh, no, it's new. It's been within the past 5 years.
Then I couldn't say why it didn't go through that process, because all things of that nature, things that are built are supposed to go through OSEF. But it sounds like you have a batting cage that the boys use and that they're not questioning, and now you're building a girls one, and so that is not necessarily even likely a Title IX violation.
Yeah,
What the Title IX violation would be is if you have one for boys and you don't have one for girls and don't let the girls use the boys.
All right, now,
They don't have equal access at that point.
how about if it was funded by an outside source and the district didn't pay for it?
It doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
all imputed to the district.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think on that, I have a question. I think I might, yeah. Because Allison said if we have one and we don't allow the girls to use it, then that would be the Title IX problem. Why do we need to build a separate one for the girls when scheduling would allow them to use it at a specific time for the girls? I just don't understand why they can't share. You know, when you have two children, you know, one plays at one time, the other plays another time, and if we have two teams, the boys can use it at certain days and times, and the girls should be able to use it at certain days and times, and we can save that funding. I'm just, make me understand.
I don't know, Mr. Nixon, if this is the correct answer, but I do know that you're looking at two totally different distances. The rubber for the girls is much closer to the batting plate than it is for the boys. And I don't know if that affects it in the batting cage or not. If you could, if you put that girls' rubber much closer, I don't know if you would have to worry about ricochets from the batting practice and stuff like that. I just know that there are two different distances from the pitcher's mounds to the home plate.
Correct. I would concur with that statement. They are two different dimensions.
And also, when you talking about kids staying after school and practicing one time and making another team, crew practice a later time of that day, And that's not giving people the time to go home and study or whatever they have to do in the evening time. That would be could be a problem.
As I've said, I did gymnastics in college. I didn't understand those organized sports, and that's why I asked. And I played the piano, not baseball. So.
I didn't feel it then.
I would like to share, thoughts. I think there's been a lot of concern about this issue, about this building, and I appreciate the information that's being shared. But, just for reference, this is not a this year capital project. This is a catch-up from years past. So a previous board, and I'm not even sure if you have before you, what year this came before the board as a request. So it came to the administration as a request by our softball team, which, by the way, it was, I think, and I may be wrong, but I mean, one of the only teams that advanced in the playoffs for our region. I mean, many teams may have made it to the playoffs, but they advanced and have repeatedly advanced. And so, it may be in one of their lower state runs that they made this request, and it was looked at by the administration, approved by the administration to proceed for board approval, and board approved it. Again, back in 18 probably, I'm just guessing. So this board before you did not approve this project. This board before you is simply playing the catch-up necessary. And so I just think there's a lot of concern about it. And, quite honestly, we have added to it, with the idea that we know that there are bathroom needs. And so some things could, we know, be scaled back. But I do think that this board has received a lot of questions and analyzation of a project that we're just simply inheriting from years past. And so as we speak on this issue, I really would like to have a softball representative next time. Is this something they still really want? Is this something they still really need, to Mr. Nixon's point? How does it work? I need to hear from our baseball and softball, and no offense to our administration or buildings and grounds on capital projects, but we need to hear from them to see, is this something you still really want? Because that's the here that I'm hearing, or the understanding that I have. And so we're analyzing a lot of things, and I just want to hear from them. Do they still need it and want it? And I think that's important for us to know moving forward.
I have a quick money question, and I want to be careful because I have a former math teacher sitting very close. But I think just real quick numbers, if I'm not mistaken, design costs come somewhere close to $113,000, and the funding sources come somewhere close to $140,000. Why the $27,000 overage in funding?
My math could be wrong. So if it is, I do apologize for that. It will be corrected, but it could have just been a error in me adding it up.
And so that roughly $27,000 would be subtracted from the 2025 bond money?
Yes, you would be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for providing the answers. We had asked, about whether this was a required project to go through the Office of School Facilities, so thank you for providing the documentation. I do see that they allow, and I wonder if this will be a consideration. I know we're talking about the design now, but would it be a consideration that it would be a possibility that some of our vocational students with our carpentry class might be able to participate with a project like this? Would this be considered a small construction project?
Without talking to them, I don't want to speak on their behalf. So we could look into that.
Yes.
And just see what guidelines are out there to make sure that we're following everything.
Thank you. I just wanted to note they mentioned that in the letter, and it always gives the students a real, application, and we do have, a good carpentry program. I also wondered, and it might not be in this documentation, you could find out if there were a district that had designs already ready. It might be a legal question more than administrative. If there's a district that has a design already ready, they're working on batting cages, is that something district could share? That's illegal. Allison, can you hear?
I can hear.
And if you need to get back to me, it's fine. I just had that thought if a district, had a similar project.
Typically, they do not share plans because you buy them from the architect and they have provided that service. Having said that, if you use the same architect, it's not as difficult for them to give you your design. Because even if you have the same design, there are gonna be some differences based on, your topography, your soil, it's just different factors are gonna be different. But they're not gonna just give you a plan because they paid for that work. But again, it is easier if you use someone, and Mosley, I think, is who would have done these plans before.
Thank you. I'm into the sharing with Mr. Nixon.
Madam Chair, I'm kind of like Sharon. I think that we need to wait and speak with the coaches of softball and the AD and have them to come in and share some highlight on do we really need this, because this is a lot of money and this has been done before we got on board. I kind of want to hear a little bit more about it myself. Thank you.
Am I mistaken, or hasn't this already been approved by the board?
Already has.
Yeah,
Have been?
yeah.
Thought we tabled it last time we talked about it.
And to be clear, my explanation or share was just that, we're just playing, this board's just playing catch up. So, we keep looking at things and we did add to it. We don't have to do the restrooms. It was just a noticeable need. I'll completely, share that I've been there when you've got baseball and softball and we have one toilet for men and one toilet for women. And in playoff season, that's just not sufficient. And so, maybe the time is now and maybe it's not. And, that's what this board can decide. But, I would be negligent if I didn't share that as a need out there.
Back to some previous comments in regards to bonds. So it looks like it was 2020 is whenever this got put in the capital projects list. So I would say probably around that time is whenever that conversation has come up in regards to the indoor batting cage. One thing that I will share is thank you for your feedback on this. I think on the administration side, we can talk with the softball about the need of it, and we understand that. But just based off, any legal, I think it would be in the board's best interest to move forward with projects like this. Not saying that the desire wouldn't be there now, but it doesn't necessarily need to come from somebody within that organization. It can come from any individual within the public has access to file certain paperwork that could put us in a legal ramification in regards to something like that. So yes, we can do that homework and we're more than happy to, but I just want to make you aware that even though it might not be there, it might not come from somebody within the organization. If any more questions in regards to the softball facility. If you flip to your next piece of paper within your packet, it is the status update on approved projects. So one thing I wanted to start on before we jump into this is, on behalf of the administration, I wanted to thank the board for working with us to get these capital projects moving. One of the biggest concerns whenever I took over this position was the stagnant of past capital projects. So I want to thank the board for working with us and getting these projects moving. And as I go down through the list, I think you'll be more than pleased of where we are and where we're going. So before I jumped into anything, I just wanted to put that out there and thank you for allowing us and working so closely with us to get these projects done and getting the funding approved so we can get things moving in the right direction. So what you will see before you is all the projects that were approved on the September 16th board meeting. So those projects include high school boilers, Bell's cafeteria unit, Northside hot water heater, the generator maintenance contract, Northside fire alarm, TCTC fire alarm, security gates at the high school, security gates at TCTC, athletic field maintenance contract, Johnson Controls fire alarm maintenance contract, district-wide retention ponds, and district-wide roofing repair. As you can see, all of those projects are moving forward. POs have been issued. The only things that we're waiting on is based on the amounts that came back for the security gates. We did have to release an RFP for fencing, which includes the security gates as well. So if you jump down to security or the RFPs, you will see that everything has been released. So we are moving forward. We are moving forward. That way we can get even more accomplished. So we are very thankful for those. The RFPs have been released. They're scheduled to come back in early November. So we hope to, once we go through the review process and review those, we hope to have answers out hopefully by December. That way we can get going with those. One thing that I wanted to mention, and this will come on later in the presentation, is if you look under district-wide roof, you will see that I broke those two projects out, Forest Hills and Bells, and we awarded those purchase orders to a roofing contractor already. And I will touch on that piece of it later on in that. If you flip to the next page, under the softball batting cage, these are the projects that the board approved on 10/14/25 board meeting. The North Side RTU replacement, the North Side cafeteria replacement unit, the middle school IT room new install, the Hendersonville replacement unit, and the Hendersonville mini split for the IT room. So those projects already have POs issued for them. So as you can see, we are moving forward, and we're moving forward getting these projects done. That way, they're not sitting on the books like we've have had in the past. So any questions in regards to the previously approved RFPs and/or projects and current statuses on anything?
If you said this and I missed it, the in progress, what would that tell us if something's in progress?
So the in progress would be is we haven't released anything because we were still waiting to come back to the board for more direction before anything would get released. So that's why you would see that under the softball batting cage.
I did have a question about that, too. The expansion of 6 total, is that 3 more units for men and 3 more for women?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I'm just saying only because I know that I think men probably needed a little less because we're not quite as encumbered, I'll say politely. When I go to the theater, there's always a line outside the ladies' restroom and not the men's, because I was thinking maybe it should be maybe 2 and 4. That just seems to me.
Yes, so I would lean on our architect to help us come up with that exact figure. I put 6, just 3 and 3, just as a reference point. It could be we do 2 stalls in the men's, or it just depends how the flow works, and we understand that. So we would definitely look at those totals to make sure we were providing the accurate number to meet using both facilities at the same time.
Back to the in progress, I understand, we went in detail about the batting cage, but there are some others that are in progress, and I wonder what we need from the board for, to give you support.
Are you talking about the next sheet?
Yeah, are you not on that page yet? I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Okay.
not yet.
Thank you.
I will get there on that question.
Mr. Simpson, when it says PO issued, do we have an ETA on any of those?
Yes, so the high school boiler, one, we have completed half of the work, and the other half is scheduled to be completed within the next week. The North Side and TCTC fire alarm, we are waiting for the final designs. We're actually doing a site walk on Thursday at TCTC. North Side site walk was already complete. So They're moving forward. I can't give you exact ETAs on everything that's listed here because everything's moving at such a fast pace. The Northside hot water heater, we did have that removed, but we're just waiting on the install piece of that, and we hope to have that completed within the coming weeks. So as dates come around, I can definitely have that updated in my monthly board report. That way, as projects get finished, you'll see this actually where it says POs turn into completions. And anything that we have firm dates on, I can list that there as well for the larger projects so that you can see that. Any other questions in regards to past approval projects? Moving on, the next piece of paper that you have in your packet under proposed process changes. This is something that whenever I presented on the 14th board meeting, that I said that we would be coming back at the capital projects meeting to discuss with the board on a new proposal change on how we handle our capital projects and how we become a little bit more efficient from our end of issuing purchase orders. The reason that we had to come back on the 14th is if we wouldn't have approved them then, we would have saw an increase had we waited until this meeting. So the new process change that we're discussing is kind of like what the board has already approved with the retention ponds and also the district-wide roofing. So the board put a certain amount of money for the administration to use for certain projects, and then as that money was spent, we were updating the board of where we were spending the money and how much we were actually spending. That's why whenever I referenced about the roofing and the bells in Forest Hills, that's a prime example of how the new process would work. So, so what we would be looking at doing is looking at district-wide projects and district-wide funding pots, and then not to exceed a certain amount. And then as that money was getting spent, we would lay it out just like we did the district-wide roofing. We would put where it was spent and how much was actually spent, and then a remaining balance in that account. If there's any unforeseen projects that do exceed the amount that is listed, that's whenever we would have to come back to the board for approval based on those projects. For example, district-wide roofing, if we were going to do another replacement and or if we had more repairs that exceeded the amount that we already had, we would have to come back to the board and ask for more funding to complete those projects, and we would know exactly what projects they were for. So based on the new process and procedures that we're looking into put into place, the first thing on that list is kind of just, I would say, not part of the district-wide, because this would be an ongoing thing that would fall under the building and grounds just regular general budget. But for this year, we don't have the funding. So that's why you're seeing it in capital projects. But that is AREHub. So AREHub is a service that will come in and take all of our documents, all of our plans, all of the manuals, anything that has to do with construction of any of our district facilities, and they will put it into an online software for us. So if we go to do improvements later, it's easy for us to find, it's easy for us to share documents, and everything is online and cloud-based. So therefore, whenever myself or the rest or any of the other administration isn't here, those plans can be easily shared with the next coming administration. This way, if you come over to our office, we have a room full of plans. And I will be quite honest, it is very tiring going through all of those. This also will house all of our fire evacuation maps, all of our shut-off locations, so everything is at your fingertips rather than digging through old plans to find this. A lot of our buildings are old and we're always looking for plans to find out where things are. And it is very tiring to try to find this. So this software would be a tremendous one-time cost to the district, and then a annual subscription that would come out of our general operating budget for building and grounds. So the $28,000 one-time fee that you see is for them to come in, take all of our data, scan everything in, and then upload it and create templates for each of our schools. So that is why you see that in there, and that is why I think it is extremely important for us. Based off, everything that we've gone through since I've been in the district, I think this is truly beneficial to us and will serve us a lot in the future, and provide us a lot more information, and probably actually we'll find stuff that we didn't even know we had, such as owner manuals, warranties, things like that, rather than sifting through binders of documents that we currently have. Any questions in regards to that before I jump? Go ahead.
Yeah, you know it's coming. I think that's a great idea. I think it's wonderful. Now, after they have scanned all the documents, are they actually going to do a walk through to make sure that what they have scanned goes along with what is actually there? If there's a building where a wall was put up that's not on a plan somewhere, will they be able to make note of those kinds of things, or will it just be the paperwork portion?
No, so they will work, and that is part of the yearly subscription, is that anything that we find, they will work with us to make sure that everything is 100% accurate as it is in our buildings. So yes, they will still scan everything in, and everything might not be 100% accurate if we installed a wall, but we would do that to make sure everything does get upgraded within that first year, to make sure all of our plans are 100% accurate. So it will take a little bit of time to catch anything that isn't already on the plans, or that we moved a wall here and there, or we moved electrical. But that's something that we would work with them within, signing the agreement and moving forward with it to make sure everything is 100% accurate, that reflects from the online to in our buildings as well.
Is this a product you're familiar with? And does it let you search if you wanted to look for a particular item?
Yes, it does. And yes, I have used it. That's why I'm recommending it, because I have used it in the past, and I find it so beneficial and so extremely user-friendly. And it is very easy to grasp, and it does allow you to search anything. You just type in a keyword, and it will search all of your documents, and it will find, if you just put in the word just gutter, for instance, it will search every architectural plan and every document that you have related to that certain school that you're at, and then it'll provide you a list of that you can search or that you can leaf through to find exactly what you're looking for.
And is this a sole source, or is this something that we put an RFP out for?
This would be a sole source item, and after the first initial year, it would fall under that procurement guidelines of putting anything out. But that first initial cost, yes.
The lighting that's here for district-wide lighting, is that considering or including the Performing Arts Center?
Yes, that is including the Performing Arts Center. There is already some funds set aside in past bond funds. So this would be in addition to that, along with some multi-purpose rooms that we're looking at, and any other lighting, upgrades or fixes that we need to currently do. So yes, that would be included.
And that would include the Performing Arts Center, I think, replacing it to LED and getting it back, because I think there was an assessment, half of them are out.
Yes, we do have multiple lights out in the auditorium. Yes, we do. And I am currently working on that with several different vendors to make sure whatever we are installing is going to work with our current dimming system. That's kind of one of the issues that they're running into. Is I've talked with a couple different manufacturers and vendors and reps. that necessarily, they don't have a good answer. I don't want to spend money on installing LED lights if they're not going to function like we need them to. So I need a guarantee before we would move forward with any projects for retrofit or anything like that. So that project is, we're working on it, but I don't have a good solution for it at this time.
So would that estimated price cover the pack, or we would still need more money?
I can't answer that because I don't have all the information. Once I gather it, I would be more than happy to share that. So I can't answer whether the money that's already been allocated with the money here would be enough to 100% overhaul or upgrade the pack lighting.
So that not to exceed there may not be actually correct.
Correct. So if it was to exceed that number, that's whenever we would have to come back for the board for that certain project to reallocate more funds to complete it. So that would be a prime example of whenever we would have to come back based off the money that's presented there.
And before you joined us, we did have a consultant working on some projects. So Superintendent Williams, I just want to make sure the connections made between some of the projects that might have been researched, while we were in transition.
And I have received all that information, and I have been in contact with that vendor who they were working with.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
For your proposed process, is this going to be a continual process year after year, same allocations for the money, or is that something that's going to change yearly?
I would say it would change yearly, and it would depend off any current needs. I think where we're at right now, district-wide, I think we're playing a lot of catch-up and solving a lot of things. And I think what we're getting towards is coming up with a more concrete plan. That way, exactly what we're looking at, what we're spending, and where the money is actually going to. That is more designated to certain projects rather than just some pots of money for us to fix our current needs and fix them in a timely manner. So we want to get to more of a 5, 7, 10, more of a long-range plan. That way, everybody is comfortable of the direction that the district is moving for funding. But to answer your question, yes, we want to continue that process, but this approach will get us there. It's just going to take maybe a year or two or three to get everything up to where we need it to be to start that long-range process and looking forward to, bigger capital projects.
What do we anticipate, in addition to the RFPs that are already out for fencing projects, what do we anticipate we need? Were they requested by schools, or is there a great need for that amount for district-wide fencing?
Yes, we do have a great need. We have a lot of schools that have, broken fences. We have a lot of schools that have had fences cut. We have a lot of gates that are falling off hinges. So we do have a large need, and I could probably name one at every school. So therefore, we felt the desire to do the RFP and list the funding in here. That way, whenever we get the RFP back, we can move forward with getting those projects done to provide, the safety that we need behind how fences can contain, outdoor recesses or athletic events. So that is a big priority for us. That's why we're looking at that one.
What other schools are going to need the fire alarm? Because I know we've targeted some that were priority ones, so there are others?
Yes, so the fire alarm repair and replacements, whenever, if you remember, we went through and did the fall inspections over fall break through all of our schools minus the high school, because that one's too large. That's getting done over Christmas break. So the reports came back, and we have a lot of deficiencies. There's no current funding within the general operating budget to fix and/or upgrade equipment that we need. So therefore, we would have. That's why we're asking for more funds to fund our current deficiency list for replacements. And that's not necessarily that they're not functioning. That is for upgrading, smoke detectors, anything that's wrong with sprinkler systems, fire pumps, riser rooms, things like that. And we can give you a more detailed report of the deficiencies and each school and the amount of deficiencies that were found. And you could see that based off that information, this number is more than accurate to meet those needs.
Will the, I guess the work all be outsourced, or will this money be used within our building and grounds as far as to do the work? Like, for instance, the Cottageville doors and hardware. I know we have carpenters on staff, and also like the HVAC repair. I know we have HVAC technicians. So is that something that this money is going to encompass as far as things they can fix, or is this just outsourced projects?
This would be a combination of both. So it would be anything that we look at and cannot fix, then we would outsource it. So the funding that's here could be a combination of both, such as district-wide lighting. We have 2 electricians on staff, and if we can replace lights within a multi-purpose room and do that project in-house, we would most definitely do something like that, because in return that does help.
That's money.
It does save us money.
It's a lot cheaper if we.
It is. And we will explore in every project that we do, we will make sure that we are spending the money wisely, and we're just not outsourcing everything.
Explained, I might have missed it, the district-wide fence is in 2 places.
So the district-wide fence, you have the funding up above, and then you have the RFP down below. If you see that they're 2 separate pieces. So we, like with the HVAC and fire alarms, how we did projects before is the board would recommend the endorsement of the RFPs, and then we would release the RFP. But the new process is we're informing the board of the current RFPs and what we're releasing. That way there is transparency of what the district is putting out. So that's why you see the RFP for the fencing has been released, and then you see the funding for the allocation for the fence repairs up above. But in the previous approval, you already approved funding for the security gates at the high school and TCTC. So therefore, we had to do the RFP for the fencing. That way we could get those projects done. So this is just another level of fence repairs that we would need that exceed the money that was already set forth by the board for 2 certain projects.
So it'll go over the estimated cost here.
No, the money that was already set aside for the high school and TCTC security gates, that number is exactly what it needs to be. Based on the quotes that we received, the funding is adequate for that. The funding that you see on the process change sheet, that is in addition to any additional work that I mentioned earlier about any repairs, any security, or any other gates within the district that we need to look at fixing and/or changing out any fencing that's damaged. So this would all fall under that RFP. If we didn't have the RFP in place, we would only be able to spend up to $10,000 with one vendor, and then we'd have multiple fencing vendors out there. And then that's whenever your consistency, fails and you don't get the quality that you're looking for from one or two consistent RFP selected vendors.
So basically, the new project for approval is basically your budget setting. This is your budget that you plan, and if it goes over that, then you come back to us.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you are correct. Yep, all the funding that you see here is everything not to exceed. So if anything would, based off what was approved before, the reallocated funds, and then the new money of the 2025, anything that would exceed that would require the administration to come back to the board for approval. And we would come back and say, we need X number of dollars for this project, and it exceeds what the board has already approved. The reason that we're looking at the new process change is it allows us to move faster. If you remember, I talked about on the 14th, we had to come and ask for approval on certain projects because purchase orders, people aren't holding prices. And they will expire quickly if we don't act on them quick. And that's why you're seeing the new process change, and it allows us to turn things around for our school and for our students in more of a timely and quicker way to provide them more of a safe learning environment.
So the district-wide carpet cleaning, that's been an ongoing thing we've done every year. So why is that new and not already included in?
So in full transparency, we will list everything that we would put an RFP and/or bid out for. So that's why you see those, and this list will continue to grow and/or change. That way, the board is 100% informed of what we're putting out and soliciting for an RFP and/or bid for.
Mr. Simpson, I remember there being a vote by this board not too long ago for a hefty chunk of money for the air conditioner in the superintendent suite. Where is that represented anywhere in any of this documentation?
No, it is not. That was already past funding. That wasn't on the capital projects list for this. Yes, you are correct. The funding has already been set aside in the 2025 bonds. I don't reflect it on this document because it was already previously approved since I started, this approval process. So, but I can give you a status update.
Sure.
And we are looking to have that beginning within the first to second week of November, with the project scheduled to be complete by Christmas.
And we still don't have an update on when we will have the fire system fixed at Northside?
Right now, I do not have an update. We are still working with the vendor on that project along with TCTC. They did complete their audit of the walkthrough with the vendor. We're just waiting on those final drawings. That way we can submit those to the Office of State Fire Marshal. That way they can review and approve them before we would start any construction. We would do that same process with TCTC as well. So once we get those drawings back, then they would be turned over to the Office of State Fire Marshal to review, to make sure that everything is 100% compliant so that we do not run into any issues that we're currently experiencing with the TCTC fire alarm project.
So does that mean Northside is still currently under fire watch?
That is correct.
And we have, our administration is checking that documentation to make sure we're in compliance with all of that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. So we do have, whenever TCTC was on the fire watch, we do have the correct documentation that we received. So we just mimicked that and provided that to Northside of a detailed plan, a detailed schedule of areas that need to be checked, along with a highlighted map and who is designated to check those areas. And then also they have to list a sub in case somebody is out in those areas as
And
well.
what member of our administration is checking on that to make sure all that's being done correctly?
That would be the principal of that building.
Okay, so nobody from the district level is reviewing that information to make sure we're in compliance with it?
Oh, no, I do review it.
You do?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Okay.
But it does fall on the building principal.
Sure.
Because they are in the building to make sure those checks are done. But yes, I do. I have reviewed the plans. I do ask for those, just so that we are completing that on a regular basis, as you said, and being in compliance with the fire watch standards.
And when that construction is approved and begun, is that going to be disruptive to the educational process?
We're working through that process right now in conversations with the vendor. They will probably run a 4 to 11 or 5 to 12 shift in the evening. That way we're not disrupting the current, students. And we would also work with any days that we have off and try to work around those schedules. But that wouldn't necessarily affect if they had to go in and do an office that is not occupied on a regular basis. So there's a lot of flexibility, but most of the work would get done after hours.
The ones are easily entertained.
Yes.
So I have one more question, and kind of, you sparked my, I guess, my interest when you said that, like, for instance, fence repair, if we had a company come in and they exceeded the $10,000 cap, but you could still use them for other projects, is that in any way going to be an issue, I guess, in the future, if we used a company for $25,000 worth of fence repair without putting that out for bid?
So we couldn't actually use somebody, if we did not have the RFP in place, we couldn't use one vendor per year for more than $10,000.
Okay.
So that's why the RFPs are so important on the maintenance side of things, not just for fencing, but across the board.
So I guess to answer my question, we would still put out the RFPs, but the money would already be.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions in regards to any capital projects? I just want to thank the board for going through this. We look forward to this continued, relationship and getting these projects approved, the funding approved, and moving to get things accomplished and showing the progress as we issue POs, as we complete projects and get things updated. And I'm still looking forward to the retention ponds because I was promised a pound cake, so looking forward to that. I was happy to see that RFP go out.
So was I, Mr. Simpson. I just hope we find someone qualified to do all that's required in that RFP. Superintendent Williams, what will be next steps, or Dr. Bagley or staff, what would be next steps for the board? We've received the presentation. What will be next steps for us?
Basically, we're asking the board to give a consensus concerning the new processes that Mr. Simpson just outlined so that we can be more efficient. I also want to just thank Mr. Simpson for the work that he has done in making sure that our projects are done in a timely manner and putting different things in place to make sure that we continue with efficiency. So basically, we're asking for the board's blessings when it comes to the last page that he presented to you. The proposed process change for efficiency and execution of projects. We're not asking for a vote tonight, but there would need to be a vote to approve the new projects that he has asked for as well. So we're asking for that approval at our November 18th board meeting. Are there any other questions from the board?
Ms. Williams, just to request again, I know this will likely come at our next board meeting, but as I see it, beginning on the page that has projects approved on 9/16 with the high school boiler, a number of projects there, funding source, are reallocated funds. And so when we get our spreadsheet on capital projects in November, I just want to make sure that I can clearly see what 2025 capital projects, the deductions of the prices, and truly a remaining balance, so that
Yes.
when we see all these numbers, we know what how much more we have to work with.
Actually, Ms. Whitkin, very good question. We actually have that information. I don't know if we made copies for tonight. Do you have it, Ms. Crosby? Yes, we do have that information. We can give it to you tonight if you would like, or we can wait until our November meeting to share at that time, but we do have it.
Okay, I can put it with my stuff and look at it before November.
Okay, all right. Ms. Crosby, if you would give the board members a copy of that for me, please.
Thank y'all.
All right. And while she's doing that, board members, we do have one additional topic that is on the agenda. It says capacity study. Capacity study. And basically, as we are discussing streamlining our processes and procedures, as we are proposing to you tonight, we would also like to just get your approval or your consensus of approval for our proposal to implement a capacity study that includes looking at a timeline for possibly selling the annex building on 611 Colleton Loop. Also looking at the capacity of our current buildings, and also a study to consider different grade level structures at our buildings. Now, this would be totally in-house. We're not asking for a firm or a company to come in to do any of that. And I just wanted to provide some information to you as to why this is needed, just to get your consensus to move forward. Basically, if we start talking about the annex building, as all of you know, the annex belongs to the school district, and we use that building as office spaces. We used it in the past as the adult learning center. Years ago, we used it as our boardroom. I think it was between 2021 and 2023, somewhere in there, it was noted that because of the airport being very close to the property, we could no longer utilize this building as a school just due to safety factors. So the property could bring revenue to the district if it is sold to a vendor that would take good care of it and utilize it for professional use. Because, as I look at the old Colleton High School, so I grew up in the Colleton Loop area, right down from Colleton County, Colleton High School, the old Colleton High School. I don't know if you have seen that area lately, but it looks very bad. That property was sold. And I'm not sure who it was sold to, but it is an eyesore in that community. Not sure who owns it, but it is a huge eyesore to that community. I would not want the annex to be sold to someone who's not going to take good care of it or utilize it for some professional for some professional use. So we are proposing that we look into possibly selling it, see if there are any vendors who would possibly like to purchase that property. I know we have had some inquiries in the past, and we have not, moved on that. But I would just ask for your consensus to let us look into that. We also would like to engage in a capacity study of our current buildings. As you know, because of declining enrollment, some of our buildings can, we can increase the number of students in some of our buildings by just restructuring our current structure. We might want to change from a K-5 school to a K-8 school. We may want to do some of those things, and we want to just get your blessings at looking at that and just bringing those suggestions back to you.
I guess I'm going to get down to brass tacks right off the rip. As far as when you say study, is that something that we're just going to look into as a district, or are we
Yes.
talking about hiring somebody? Okay.
No, sir. That's just something that we want to do in-house. We're not
Okay.
going to hire anybody to come in and do that. We just want to do it in-house, just see how we can streamline and make our district more efficient. Not only with our capital projects, we're asking you, but we're just looking district-wide
Sure.
at efficiency.
I think it's an excellent idea as far as the old campus B building, that if we continue to hold on to it, it's just going to continue to lose value because we're not maintaining it to the extent that it needs to be maintained. It would be wasteful for us to do that right now when we're not using the building, and it's just essentially losing value over time. So I don't think as a district we'll ever be able to use that building for a school purpose, again, based on problems with the airport in the past. So I think it's a great idea. I think we could use the money in the district, and we don't need that problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stabenow.
I second that because it's in my neighborhood. Yes.
Yes.
For following up, putting that on the agenda, I know some board members have asked that we look at all buildings that this district owns. And might that be something that your staff can provide to the
Yes.
board? A list of all the properties that we own. that,
We definitely
appreciate you
can,
putting
Chair
this on the
Strobel.
agenda for the board to consider that
Yes.
project, but what other things are out there that we own?
Most definitely, and we've actually compiled a list. We have the list compiled. We were just working on just kind of tweaking it and making sure that we had everything, and that will be presented to the board officers at our next board prep meeting. So we do have that listing for you.
But you don't want to sell that to just anybody.
Right, you're exactly right.
Because I've seen, there was two, the old Colleton High and the Smokes Middle School. Both of those were sold to an individual, and they are an ISO in the community. So regardless of just selling it, fine, but we got to make sure who we sell it to and what they're going to do with it.
You're exactly right,
I
Mr.
agree. I
Murdock.
think too, we talk about selling, we first need to find out what that property may be used for. I think that's that was the issue that we faced before, was understanding the restrictions of the airport. So, there could be a sale, which to Mr. Saverner's point, is just decreasing in value, but also it could be in a situation that, like we worked with our county on the old stadium property, just better managing that property so that it is not the eyesore that Mr. Murdock mentioned happened in the Smokes area.
Thank you, Ms. Whitkin.
I will also mention that I pass that property every day, and I am pleased that the groundspeople are keeping the grass cut so it doesn't look like an abandoned building. So that's a plus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Nixon.
And as we move forward with looking at capacity study of current buildings, like where we have space for expanding or doing different types of instructional things for our students. Is that something that, as we look at the big picture, that we would get community input for some of the, to be sharing some of the things we're thinking about as a board?
Yes. So what we would really like to do is get the study started, bring it to the attention of the board first, and then after bringing it to your attention, then we would get input from our stakeholders. We could possibly have a magnet school for the arts. We could possibly have a STEM school. We could possibly have our own charter school. There's so many possibilities that we can have. And yes, we would like to get the input of our stakeholders, but we need to start it in-house first. Give the board our suggestions, and get that, approval from you before we go out to our stakeholders. But yes, thank you, Ms. Strobel, for that comment.
So we gotta work, we still got some work through before we can sell it. Hi, I just wanted to remind you, we do have a process for when we sell school property. Even though we were told that couldn't be used for students, we still have to go through that process with offering it to any charter school. So as we, this is a little bit different situation, so I'll have to get some information, that we were provided that said, and then ask the State Department. And anyways, like I said, it's a little bit different than the last time, but there's still a process, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes a while, and I think the state only meets once a month. And once I get all that information, I submit it, and then they typically will put it on the next agenda. But again, I don't know when. So I just wanted to let y'all know, it's just not a, pardon? Right, but I'll probably need something, I will need something to give the State Department to show, listen, I can't offer it to a charter school, or either I've got to contact the charter school and get their decline, or if, I hope they're not interested.
So you're referring to a new policy? I know if charter sells something, they have to offer to us, and is it also if we sell something, we have to offer to them? Is that what you're referring to?
Any of our properties, that's in the code that you have to, or not the code, but part of the process for disposal of properties, that you have to offer it to a charter school first. You have to give them first option. So.
But we also know we have airport restrictions that, good to think about. So thank you, Superintendent Williams. Board members, I think we've gone through the agenda that was set for our capital project work session. We thank Superintendent Williams and her staff. Any other information you need to bring to the board for the capital project work session?
Just wanted to let you all know, Ms. Whitkin asked at the beginning of the meeting about the water main break, and we've gotten confirmation that it is back up and running, so it's been repaired. Mr. Simpson is going out now just to check and make sure everything's okay so that we can have school on tomorrow at Colleton County High School. We will work on a release to send to parents this evening, letting them know that it has been repaired.
Thank you for that information from the city. Know they worked real hard today, and we appreciate them getting us back going. I know they have done everything in their power as soon as possible to get us going. So we relay that thanks to our city for getting that working. And Mr. Simpson, we look forward to a good report that the water's working well in the building. Any other information for a capital project work session?
Chair Strobel, that ends our work session for tonight.
Any other questions, board members, for the information that was provided to us from the capital project work session? Hearing none, we do have added to this agenda an opportunity for an executive session for just 2 topics. So any questions you need to ask about this, we need to do it here. And I'll ask for a motion that we enter into executive session for discussion and receipt of legal advice regarding employment compensation, discussion and receipt of legal advice on superintendent search. So those would be the topics we will discuss in the back and none other. So any other questions one more time before I ask for the motion? I'll receive a motion that we enter into executive session just for those 2 topics.
Madam Chair, make a motion, we enter into executive sessions for topics number 4.01, 4.02.
Second.
There was a motion, there was a second. We will enter into executive session, ending our capital project work session that was live. Any discussion about the motion in the second? Hearing none, all those in favor of entering executive session for just those 2 topics, please show your right hand. We're in executive session. Thank you.